We are coming live again from Advancing Prefab 2023 and excited to be joined by Sam Hamilton. So Sam, thanks for taking the time and talking with us. And can you start by giving kind of a little history of your background and why you're at Advancing Prefab?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Todd. My name's Sam Hamilton. I'm with Encore Electric. We're an electrical contractor out of Denver, Colorado. We have multiple locations, but that's where we're headquartered. I am the director of prefabrication and virtual design and construction there at our shop, and we have about 70 people total. We've got about 45 craftsmen in the shop, 13 VDC operators, and then the supervision as well. I've been there for 12 years.
Awesome. Nice. So before we really get in heavy to prefab, let's talk a bit about communication and how the industry, maybe a gut check of where the industry is on communication, and then what we can do better, because we're not great at it.
How heavily is the language monitored on this podcast? I'm not sure where you want to start.
We're not an explicit show, but yeah, I think you just gave the state of
That's
communication.
My answer. That's my final
Perfect.
answer.
So, what are some baby steps? Actually, before we get into baby steps on communication, why should we even talk about having better communication? At the end of the day, why should companies really care about communicating better?
I think it's everything. It doesn't matter who you work for or what you do. It's life. You should have it with your company, with your department, with your team, with your kids, with your spouse, with your coworkers, with everyone. And I think it's become more important than it's ever been, because it's becoming a lost art of just being able to communicate with one another. And often I find it's the easiest way to eliminate a lot of problems is just putting it out there and having the conversation.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest hurdles from my vantage point is people just don't take the time to actually sit down, because they think it's going to take a lot of work, but really it takes way more work if you don't just sit down for the 30 seconds and say, what did you actually mean by this, of what you just said?
Yeah.
And what you use this term, but in context it seems like that's not really what you're talking about, or I don't understand what you just said.
Yeah.
What do you think the hesitancy is to just own that you didn't know it?
Fear. And I'm not sure how familiar with construction you are. There's a lot of pride and egos.
Sure.
And with those, become lack of accountability.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of it comes in, I think. No one likes to feel stupid, no matter what industry you're in, right? And if I don't know, and I don't ever show you that I don't know, then you can't assume I'm dumb, right? I'm probably the opposite and to the extreme, where I'm like, I have no idea what the is, but give me a minute, I do. I know someone that does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd rather go find the answer and admit that I have no clue what's going on than to, what is the saying? Like, it's better to keep your mouth closed.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember what it was, and instead of open your mouth.
Let them assume that you're... don't
remove
open your
all
mouth.
doubt.
Yeah.
However that goes. Yeah, I'm the open my mouth and remove all doubt. Like, I would just rather show you my cards and let you know where I'm at with something. I think people appreciate that more nowadays, to just be honest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Just say it. Don't give me a line of bullshit and then not be able to deliver, which we run into frequently in construction. So
I think it's funny in construction too that people try to hide the fact that they don't know something, because it's very clear once you actually start doing something that you didn't know what you were talking about. So now you're wasting all this time that you could have eliminated by just saying, hey, what did you actually mean by this? How do I actually do this? I've never done it before. Can you show me and teach me? And everybody in construction, for the most part, I shouldn't say everybody, for the most part, people are more than willing to come alongside if you have that humility and say, hey, I don't know it. And they go, oh, okay, sure, let me teach you.
Absolutely.
Because they don't want to waste the time either. Go back and do the rework.
Yeah. Our favorite foremen and superintendents, the prefab, are the ones that are the most honest and communicate the best. And they're hilarious. You know, the guy that sends in something and it's wrong, like, we understand that. We're all human and people make mistakes, right?
Right.
But the one that never comes back and says, hey, sorry, that wasn't right, that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's the guy that emails back and says, hey, guys, sorry, I was a dumbass. I totally missed that, you know. Can you still get it out?
Yeah.
get it sent to me on time, and the guys in the shop will bend over backwards for that guy because they appreciate that honesty, right?
Right.
It goes a long ways.
Right. So we were chatting before on the need to own failures as well too. Why do you think that's important in construction, to say, yeah, this bombed, it did not go according to plan, but this is what happened, and really be open about that?
If you don't own it and you do it again, aren't you a dumbass? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you own it, then you can take that. I always say it's not a mistake if you learn from it.
Yeah.
If you do it again, you're a dumbass.
Right.
So if you don't own up to it and be like, man, this didn't go right, I think owners also appreciate that. If you go to the next job and say, I know this is what you want to do, but we've been down that road and it didn't work, and this is why.
Yeah.
And it was a mistake. It didn't go well. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but it didn't execute like we pictured it.
Right.
They appreciate that.
Yeah.
And too many people go in nowadays and sit down with the owners, and they have this idea, and they know it won't work. And it goes back to that, okay, and they just kind of nod their head like they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to have that honest conversation. Take that few minutes and walk through it and explain why it's not going to work.
Yeah.
They just want to nod their heads and move on.
Right. Especially when it's the owner. I feel like they think that it's, if they push back, they're going to be perceived as hard to work with or difficult. And when really the reverse is true in the long run, because the owner's going to appreciate you saying, hey, let's not even bother with this.
Right.
Here's a better solution. Now, if you just say, don't bother with this, and you stop there, that's not great.
Right.
But if you say this isn't going to work and here's why, and then here's the solution around that, the owner, I think, for sure appreciates that in the long run.
Unless I'm just like a egotistical, chest-beating owner and I don't want to hear anyone's opinion, which I think that would make me like the ruler of China, I think it changes the perspective in the relationship, right? Like now I feel like you have my back.
Right.
Like you're not just being a yes man and nodding your head because I wanted something, which they get a lot. Now I feel like I've got somebody in my corner that's going to be honest with me, which is hard to come by. So.
Right. And I think it shows that your work is probably going to be better as well too, because if you are trustworthy in the little things of being able to push back, you're going to take attention to detail on your actual job site when you're building the building too. So in terms of prefab here, what's a big trend that you're kind of keeping watch on for this year?
The evolution of the business and the culture and how it's changing, as well as the software and the platforms that no one has, and they're all scrambling trying to figure out what's the silver bullet. Yeah. I just listened to the funniest guy. I think I told you about that earlier. Like, he was just going on and on about all the things that go wrong and everyone has in their mind that you place an order, you order the material, you build the order, you send the order out, and everybody like wanders off skipping and dancing and holding hands, and it just doesn't work like that in the real world. So some of the real basic software solutions that are out there will do that real basic system for you, but it's all the things that in the cow paths in between that are the problems that we face every day, and there's not a solution out there unless you develop it yourself. And everyone seemed, I was in a room of probably 60 people, and we were all rowing the same boat. So, including the guy and his system that he wasn't fond of that he was using. So he's like, I'll share it with you, but don't use it. We're just all learning.
Big disclaimer.
We're all learning so much as we go, and all the different caveats of our world that we live in and that ecosystem and how difficult it is. It's just not cut and dried.
What do you think the biggest friction area is in that learning curve of trying to figure out new processes and really help push the bar forward?
It's technology. A lot of it, it's changing. There's a lot of half-baked ideas out there, I think, that just aren't where they need to be without being a complete package that will get you where you're going. And there's a lot of sales guys out there that they'll sell you the moon, right?
Right.
I mean, If you live in,
it's always going to work on the sales side.
yeah, if you live in Alaska, are you interested in ice cubes? It's kind of that mentality. And so it's and you don't know what you don't know. So if you're going down that road, there's so many unknowns, and so it's really easy to get caught up in something that is shiny. Mm-hmm. So understanding what your company, your team, your craftsmen, and what your process really is, and truly understanding not only what you want, what's gonna be that solution for you, but also thinking long game. Don't get caught up in what you need today, but where do you want it to be able to go and grow with you 5 to 10 years from now?
Mm-hmm. So how do you personally kind of avoid the shiny object syndrome?
I have a, what do they call it? It's a bullshit meter. And I just crank it up about as high as it'll go. And yeah. So I've been in this industry since I was 17. Taught the software, did design. I've seen it change. I live in the process. I work in the shop. I have a pretty good, well-rounded view of all of it. Mm-hmm. So I like to think I'm pretty decent at sniffing out the BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest change over that time period in terms of construction and now really bringing in prefab and modular?
The biggest change, all of it, I guess. It used to be CAD. I always say it's not your dad's CAD anymore. And then now prefab's really starting to gain some traction. The technology that's driving all of it, 10, 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago, if somebody had said, I want to make a living drawing in CAD, mm-hmm. someone would have been more apt to tell them, you'll never make a career doing that. Mm-hmm. This is construction. We build
right.
And the tables have turned. Like, those teams that have grown, most places have, maybe a couple of people, have small shop. Like, we're moving in the direction where it's completely done on 180, and that's the driving force now. Mm-hmm. We don't have craftsmen like we did. We don't have the labor force or the talent, and we're having to find other ways to try to get the job done with a shorter schedule, with a smaller budget,
right?
With a material shortage, with ridiculous lead times.
Yeah.
Just all the things,
hence the
right?
rise of prefab coming in more and more.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where the importance comes in and why there's so many people here today and this week. Yeah. Realizing that, right?
Do you think that the next 15 years is going to have as equally exponential growth and change in the industry, or less, even more? Where do you think?
Even more. I mean, look at things like VDC. It's just continuously kind of developed itself over time as people started to understand it, realize the value, and it's kind of gotten a foothold. I think prefab's going to turn into a big, hairy monster. Mm-hmm. I think it's just it's not where design and coordination was an option, because it was a requirement, at least in our world, in the MEP side. It was something that was required, and then people started to see the value. And I think prefab, we're going to get thrown into the fire. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it or you're going to die. Yeah. It's going to be almost impossible to survive without it.
Right.
In the times we live in, with the challenges that we face, we're not going to be able to keep building like we are. It's not going to be something you're doing just to check the box. It's going to be what you're doing to stay alive, mm-hmm. and continue to be a prosperous company in the black.
Right, right. That's important.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you came into the industry at 17.
Yes.
What brought you in at 17?
Well, I grew up in a little bitty town. I had a graduating class of 45, and this was in 97. That tells you how old I am. And tiny little town, 45 kids in my class. Back then, computers weren't everywhere like they are today. And there was one classroom, they had 10 great big computers like the size of this table set up. And that was the computer lab. And those are the only computers in the whole entire school. And a community college came in and offered community college credits if you took this little class they were offering, and it was called AutoCAD. And I have always been really creative and like to draw and kind of artistic. And I signed up for it, got chosen, started using it, and ended up going to school for architecture. I refer to myself as a recovering architect now.
Okay.
Didn't take me long to realize that was not my jam, and I don't want to walk around in a black suit for the rest of my life. So
Yeah. So you started on the design side and then came over.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
What that's been a super common theme today, actually.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because you don't think of, at least I don't think of a lot of architects in the prefab side of things, but you guys are out there more.
Yeah,
You keep it quiet.
Yeah. Since I said recovering architect, I got into an argument with the college not too long ago about their program, and they were really adamant on all of their students that graduated with an architecture degree grew up to be super successful architects. And I was like, for how long? Like, most of the coordinators and the MEP side, a lot of them come from an architectural background because that's really all that's out there. There's not a lot of colleges that teach MEP.
Right.
And they argued with me that that's just all, anyone that's ever graduated, that's all they've ever done. I said, well, why don't you go back 3 years later and ask them where they are?
Right.
Like, it changes, right? Like,
Sure.
and they find different career paths, and there's so many things you can do when you start down that road. And now I've got detailers and coordinators and shop and guys in the shop that want to draw and guys that are drawing in the shop that want to go build shit, and it just integrates together really well. So.
Yeah. I think that's one of the cool things about the construction industry is there's so many different career paths, and it's not really a path. It's like a Hydra monster, and then it circles that because people come back around and boomerang of where their career paths is. Those options is pretty cool.
Yeah.
How do we bring in more people that maybe have a bad perception of construction or just have never thought of construction for whatever reason? How do we bring those people into the industry?
You have to appeal to them, right? It's a different generation that we're recruiting from, and I think a lot of us grew up where you just put your head down and do the work, and I don't care about anything else. Push the broom.
Yeah.
And it's not that way anymore. Encore Electric created a training trailer. It's like a 16-foot enclosed bumper pull. We pull behind one of our company trucks.
Okay.
And we take it to trade schools, tech schools, high schools. Inside there's different stations. So there's like a light, a fan, another light, like some other things. And it's a escape room. So there's a timer in there. So they come in on one end of it, like the big double doors, and then they close, and then the timer comes on. And everything's pre-wired and laid out in front of each station as you walk around through it. And they have to plug everything in exactly like it works to get it to come on. And there's even a laptop in there that it has a 3D model of the trailer, and you have to walk around in the trailer and go through the cabinets to find like this hidden Easter egg thing that's in there, and if you can do that. So it's a little bit of a 3D interactive virtual design, hands-on, electrical, plugs, lights.
Yeah, very cool.
It really gets them
That's fun.
engaged in what's going on, and they either are like, I hate this shit, or this is really cool, tell me more.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
So it's become so busy we had to hire someone full-time, especially during the school year. It's on the road 5 days a week.
That's really cool.
Yeah, nonstop. The schools everywhere want it so that they can get kids engaged and can get them, kind of train. I think people are starting maybe to realize maybe four-year college isn't for everyone. And if you're an electrician, my son now he works for the company, and he's a second-year apprentice working in Montana, making great money. Encore pays for all of their school for their first 4 years. They graduate, they get their journeyman's license, they go straight to $32 an hour, they have zero debt, and they've been able to work the entire time they were in school. Like, that kid is set.
Right.
I'm like, God, I wish I knew
deal.
what you knew. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. And the apprenticeship program we have is really good. So once you get those kids engaged and they can kind of see what's going on, and it's interesting. If they can do the work and show up, It's amazing what they can do
Yeah.
at Encore. Yeah.
I think that's a huge pillar for it for sure to just get exposure to it. Because so many, I know shop class was not a thing at my high school at all. So there was no, unless you had a family member that was in construction, you probably didn't get exposed to it, maybe outside of architecture.
Right.
And that's where the career path would go. But there's so many cool things, and I think it really, construction appeals to a huge percentage of people that just don't get the opportunity to know what's happening. And, how do you go about changing the societal kind of view of construction? Because that's another big kind of pillar hurdle in bringing people into the industry.
Yeah, it's all about money. At the end of the day, it's all
show me the money.
Money. I work with a couple of local tech schools really closely to help them keep their programs up to date, and we do a lot of recruiting and all the things, right? But one of them said they tried to have like career, what do you call them, career days or...
Like a career fair kind of deal?
Thank you. One of those things. They would have those, and they'd have them during the day, and what they saw were kids would go around, the kid would get really excited about something, see it, try it, oh my gosh, this is awesome, and then they'd go home, and they'd tell their parents, and their parents would be like, hell no, you're not going into construction. So they started changing the times of when they offer the career fair so that the parents could come with them so that they could tackle the parents while they're there. And then if you're lucky enough to work for a company like Encore, you can have that conversation. Okay, let's look at the cost side of things.
Right.
My kid is going to be further along than yours is in 4 years, I promise. And it won't cost me a dime.
Right.
And he will have made money for the last 4 years working a full-time job.
Right.
With zero debt.
Yeah, those stats are staggering when you see
if you
it all laid out.
And I have a layout, like I could show you. And when you look at that on paper, it's like, oh my God. Okay, Jimmy, you're going into construction.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're stupid not to go into construction.
Oh my God. And especially on the electrical side, that's not going anywhere. As technology becomes bigger and there's electrical cars, there's smart cities, all the technology, the list goes on and on, it's not going anywhere. It's not swinging a hammer. You're not dragging your, knuckles on the ground. Like our electricians, they're also the biggest prima donnas. Don't tell them I said that, but hopefully none of them listen to this.
Just our secret.
But they're also the smartest. And don't let anybody else hear that part either. They're very intelligent. What they're dealing with is really dangerous. So they're not, like I said, knuckle dragging buffoons.
Right.
Swinging a hammer anymore. Like they're very, very smart individuals with a really, really good career path out ahead of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at just the creativeness too. That so many people in construction have, because at the end of the day, you're solving problems every single day. That's what you do. If you're not good at solving problems, you're probably not going to last in construction for very long.
Yeah. You're the guy changing the porta potties out on the job site.
Yeah, that's not a glamorous job.
Even that can be challenging. So,
right. Yeah. So what do you see as the next step in industrializing the construction industry?
I think Amy talks about it. It's a lot of the productization. We are currently working on creating common assemblies, because that's the problem, is we just create different things all the time, and we're always going to have a need for that. But really getting consistent with our products, what we're providing, what we're holding in inventory, creating a catalog that has true part numbers to each build, whether it's wall rough or just something as simple as a bend or a centipede or whatever that is. Really keeping it consistent from pre-con, estimating, VDC, modeling, having that manufacturing mindset, what type it is. Is it a fast-moving product? Is it a custom product? And all the way to our vendors, so that maybe they even have the same part number. So even if I send them one part number, it's comprised of 6 different components, and they know that based off that one I sent them. So they know what to put together to get for me to send back, and that stays the same through the whole process.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of timeline do you put on that really reaching kind of critical mass in the industry to have that framework? That's pretty progressive.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a great question. I know I won it yesterday. Even when I'm hoping to have that nailed down by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
How soon it will reach the masses? I don't know.
Longer than that.
Yeah. I'm assuming it will take longer than that.
Yeah. Nice. What does innovation mean to you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't want to give you some canned out of the box response. Innovation. Just getting creative. I think we get in our own way a lot of times. And nobody likes change. We get used to doing things the same way. I think it's thinking big picture. It's thinking about where you really want to go and who you really want to be, especially as a company or even a fab shop. Making sure that you don't handcuff yourself to an idea or a thought, particularly based on how you used to do something. Really being open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Ask
it.
the questions.
I like it.
Yeah.
Not being owned by your fear.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Sometimes you just gotta jump off the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Nice.
sure.
So how do people find out more information on what Encore's doing or connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Sam Hamilton, or you can always give me a call, email. My email is sam.hamilton@encoreelectric.com. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, reach
Very
out.
cool.
I love to. I'm an open book. My execs hate me. I love to help people if I can. I love to have really honest, productive conversations to try to help the industry out. I heard Ray Boff say this morning, when the tide rises, or the tide comes up, all boats rise, right? And that's so
Right.
true. I'm really a
100%.
big advocate of just being a good steward of the industry and helping. Why would you want to go through all the shit I have over the last 10 years? You know what I mean? Like, if I can just tell you some stuff that I did that was really stupid and save you the trouble, I'm more
Right.
than happy to share those stories. So,
Right.
yeah.
I think that's a good thing about events like Advancing Prefab is that the people come in really willing to share the good and the bad and help somebody kind of come along to where they are, because the more you try to hold it close to the vest, the more you're just hurting everybody.
You're not, your process isn't going to work if everyone else isn't using it.
Right.
Or hasn't figured it out, right?
Right.
It's just your process.
And this whole change that we need, it has to happen in that critical mass standpoint to really get to the next level. If not,
Right.
everybody, even the progressive ones, are kind of dragging along boat anchor of the rest of the industry, you know?
They're hung up on some seaweed somewhere, I
Right.
think. But yeah.
Yeah. So last question for you. If I could give you all construction power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing, what would you pick to innovate?
Oh my God, my brain just caught on fire.
With great power comes great responsibility, okay? So take a moment if you need to.
One thing. What would I innovate?
Yeah.
Or what could I just change in general?
What would you innovate?
That platform, that end-all be-all solution, all things prefab, that anyone could pick up and help make their shop more successful, that truly integrates with what we do in our ecosystem.
So is that like one software to rule them all, or interoperability between software and have a link between them?
Interoperability. I think that'd probably been my answer 10 years ago. It still sucks. So,
It's a slow-moving machine.
Oh, man.
Baby steps on that.
Machine with like square wheels and one's a track and yeah.
Nice. Well, that's a good one. And hopefully in the next 10 years,
Yes.
that we'll have a circle on one of those wheels.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, right. If we could get some round wheels on that. I think they may be round only from slowly grinding down themselves and rounding their edges.
Yeah. Hey, round is round, okay? Take the win.
Yeah, I'll take it however.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thanks so much for taking the time and
Okay.
chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Todd.